If you join the military, any branch, I give one piece of advice to keep your insanity straight and to make sure you can last at least one enlistment or even 20. Actually, if you want to make it 20, just apply this on a daily basis. Don't try and figure out why. Just realize sometimes things are the way they are. If you try and make common sense out of it, it's just not going to make sense. What is up, guys? You're tuning in to Nikki MGTV for another military video for all your military video needs. As always, you can hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, or down in the comments below if you have questions. But as always, let's roll right into the topic, and that is the 5 things that make absolutely no sense in the Navy. And I know people are like, but that's the whole military. But each branch has its own, this doesn't make sense. And the quirks that have just been there that no one has a really good answer for. But common sense would say that there's a good answer. So here they are. The first one is the Navy advancement system. Not how you advance, but once you advance. Alright, so Navy, tons of tradition, respect. Okay, get it. Makes sense that we would carry traditions on, but the frocking, there's something called frocking in the Navy. So when you make E4, E5, E6, any rank, there's a frocking period where you will wear the rank, assume the responsibilities and duties, but you're not entitled to the pay yet for how many ever months until you finally meet the increment that says that you can be paid, but you are technically doing that job and you hold that title. Now, the even more screwed up thing is, if you get in trouble and you're still in that period where you're wearing it but not being paid for it, you could then be knocked down 2 ranks. So say you're E5, right? But you're in frocking status. You get in trouble. You're technically not E5 until you are paid, which means you're still an E4 in the Navy's eyes, which means if you get in trouble, you can be busted down all the way to E3. Insane. I know. I don't know why this tradition hasn't gone away. I don't know if there's like a real purpose to even keep it around, because either way you're going to get paid. Maybe it's a way to save money. I don't know. Maybe that's the reason why. If you guys know, let me know down in the comments below. Oh, this one blows my mind, okay? We talk about government spending all the time. You're like, oh, the budget for the military is so big and, you know, we should be saving money. And I'm like, yeah, there's small things I think that could save money. One example of this is if you want to stay in the same location, say you're in Rota, Spain or something like that, or Japan, and you want to stay overseas, and there's another command you can transfer to that's in the same exact place, the Navy does not like that. For some reason, they don't. And it's kind of frustrating because in the logical mindset, you're like, yeah, man, like, you can stay in the same place, and guess what? You save the government a ton of money, and you don't have to move your stuff, and your family gets to stay there, and you don't have to do any kind of overseas screening. But for some reason, the Navy loves saying that we like well-rounded sailors to travel all around the world and change their jobs a million times. That just doesn't make sense to me. When you could save a lot of money. And I know the Air Force people do get better chances of staying overseas, multiple tours, and I want to say it's not just staying at the same exact base, right? What I would like to imply here is, say you want to stay overseas and you don't want to go back to the States. It is very difficult in the Navy to just stay overseas. Longest, craziest I've ever heard was there was a senior chief that did 18 years overseas, and that's like the rarest thing ever. But then I knew some Air Force people that stayed overseas. I will say, if you do join, imagine bouncing from overseas, stateside. If you're on a shore duty, if you're on a sea duty, you're going to bounce around to all these different places. So it's just diversity. Next one is about actually doing your job, which I find is kind of funny because a lot of people ask about their job, right? And when they're going to join the military, what kind of job they're going to have. Realistically, yeah, you'll do your job, but there's going to be a lot of times where you are recognized or seen as a more valuable person if you do things outside of your job. You know, I just laugh at this because it's a very true thing to show that you've gone above and beyond, got out of your comfort zone, and you've done this stuff. Understandable, but at the same time, imagine like if you went to go get hired at McDonald's and they're like, hey dude, you have one job. You've applied to be the cook. That's what you're supposed to do. And then you bust in there, you like do one day as a cook, and then the next you're like, I got that stuff down, man. I'm now the manager and I'm the person doing the cashier. I'm never touching the fryer, but that's what I'm hired to do. And imagine how well that would go over. It's just kind of funny when you look at it in that aspect, because we're manpower and we can be moved around, and that I think has been evolved from what the old ship days were like, where you're on a crew of however many people and someone's got to fill some random spot and they're going to wear many different hats. So maybe that's where it spawns from, but it is interesting to see that not doing your job, or doing a different job I should say, is what can reward you as far as evaluations and moving up within the ranks. I'm triggered. I'm going to let you guys know. It's 2019 and I am triggered. I'm tired of this. People are calling me petty. I'm not petty. What I am is a petty officer, and I just don't understand. We can't make a better name for the ranks of E4 to E6. We got to keep it petty officer. Like, we haven't said, hey, the word petty is degrading. Actually, let's go to the dictionary and see what petty even means. Petty, per Google, says of little importance or trivial. Right there. See, man, this is why I need to feel valued. We need to change the names. We tried to take man out of everything. We should have started by taking petty out of everything. We should have just made it something else, like professional officer or the people's officer or something. I don't know, something more like legit, and that way I don't feel so degraded every time someone says, oh, you're a petty officer. I looked this up as well. There's no reason for petty officer other than to delineate back in the day officers and the people that were not officers. That's all it was. But you know what? We'll just stick with what our traditions are. You know, I guess that's what we're going off, just traditions. The last one is for all military, and I find it funny because the way the system works, why there's so many divorces and why so many people that are young get married, that is the fact that you could have someone join at the age of 28, 30, 35 years old, not married, has to live in the barracks. You get an 18-year-old that marries his high school sweetheart, that dude can live out in town and is seen as responsible. But you have this 30-something-year-old or whatever, upper 20-year-old dude living in the barracks, and he has room inspections and all this other stuff and is not as privileged to have his own place or own house. So I don't understand the concept of if you're married, you're automatically responsible. It does suck because it's based on rank, whereas age is not as much of a factor because obviously rank trumps everything in the military. But I just find that mindset very interesting because just like how we look at grades as far as schooling, like just because you're a 12th grade, does that really mean you're mature to be a 12th grader? Like you wouldn't grade it based off that. Like, it's kind of weird because I kind of see like maturity and responsibility kind of on the spectrum, but it's hard to delineate that when you're in the military. So the best way to do it is rank. I understand that, but I just find when you look at it from an exterior view, it's kind of interesting to see how there can be flaws in that. But if you guys have something that doesn't make sense since you've been in the military, maybe I know the answer to it and I might be able to explain it to you down in the comments below. Type away and let me know what you guys have experienced that maybe doesn't make sense. But as always, if you do have any other questions, you can always hit me up on Instagram, Snapchat, or down in the comments below. I love you guys. I'll see you next time.